Find the derivative of y equals sine 2x minus 2 all over the cosine of 2x. Then evaluate y prime of pi over 12. Y here is the quotient of two different expressions, sine 2x minus 2 divided by cosine of 2x. One option for the derivative is to use the quotient rule. However, since our denominator is a single term, it's not added or subtracted with anything else, we have the option of rewriting each of the terms in the numerator over that common denominator and avoid the quotient rule. Let's try that out. I have the sine of 2x over the cosine of 2x, and then I have minus 2 also over the cosine of 2x. Now sine over cosine can also be written as tangent, so this is the tangent of 2x, and 1 over cosine 2x is the same as secant 2x. Now there's a 2 over it and a negative in front of it. That negative and that 2 will be multiplying the 1 over the cosine, which becomes the secant. So negative 2 secant of 2x. These expressions are separated by a minus sign, and therefore we can take the derivative of each of them separately. That will make our work for the derivative easier than having to use the quotient rule. Let's find the derivative now, y prime, which can also be called dy dx here, is going to be the derivative of tangent of an expression 2x. The derivative of tangent will be secant squared. Leave the inside alone, so secant squared of 2x. However, the inside is not just x, but 2x, the derivative of the inside for the chain rule, will give us a 2. Now that's not inside the trig function, that's going to be outside, so we're going to move it to the front in our next step. We also have minus 2. The derivative of secant is secant tangent, so secant 2x, tangent 2x, we leave the inside alone, but then we need to multiply by the derivative of the inside, which again is a 2. And that's not inside the trig functions, it'll move to the front. So let's take the step where we move those to the front. So y prime or dy dx will equal 2 secant squared of 2x minus a 2 times a 2, when we move it to the front, will be a 4, and then secant 2x tangent of 2x. There's our derivative y prime. The next thing to do is to evaluate y prime of pi over 12. Y prime of pi over 12 will be 2 times secant squared of 2 pi over 12 minus 4 secant of 2 times pi over 12, and then the tangent of 2 times pi over 12. Plugging a pi over 12 in for each of the x's. Now each of those 2 times pi over 12 can cancel down, because the 2 and the 12 can cancel to give us a 6, and that will happen within each of these trig functions. So it's really going to be pi over 6 we're evaluating these at. Now that first term, we have 2 times the secant squared of pi over 6. The secant squared means to evaluate the secant first and then square the result. And then we have minus 4 secant to the first power, pi over 6, and tangent also to the first power, pi over 6. And now let's evaluate each of these trig functions. So we will have 2 times the secant of pi over 6 is 1 over the cosine of pi over 6. Cosine of pi over 6 is root 3 over 2. We're going to reciprocate that for the secant. So 2 over root 3. And then quantity squared. Minus 4 times the secant of pi over 6 again is 2 over root 3. The tangent of pi over 6 is going to be the sine of pi over 6, which is a 1/2, over the cosine of pi over 6, which is root 3 over 2. I'll write it that way, and then we'll simplify that fraction. So we have the first term, 2 times 2 over root 3 squared. Let's square each of those. 2 squared is a 4. Root 3 squared is a 3, so 2 times 4 over 3. And then we have minus 4 times 2 over root 3 times fraction over fraction. Let's reciprocate the denominator fraction. It'll be 2 over root 3, and multiply it with the numerator fraction. Now the 2's in the numerator and denominator can cancel each other in that multiplication. So what we have is 2 times 4 over 3. You can think of that as a 2 over 1. It'll give us an 8 over 3. Then minus 4 times 2 over root 3 times 1 over root 3. So this is going to give us an 8/3 minus, now let's multiply all the numerators, 4 times 2 times 1, that's going to give us an 8. Multiply all the denominators, root 3 times root 3, which gives us a 3. And 8 over 3 minus 8 over 3 is going to give us 0.